Hello, I am Paula Bennett and welcome to my New Zealand Herald podcast, Ask Me Anything. Now, one thing I've learnt in life is it's never too late to learn something new. So on this podcast, I talk to people from all walks of life to hear about how they got to where they are and get some advice and guidance on some of life's biggest questions. On the podcast today, I'm joined by award-winning journalist and broadcaster Susie Ferguson. Susie has had a very interesting career, born in Scotland, trained in the UK. She has reported and presented news all over the world. She became a war correspondent, reporting from both Iraq and Afghanistan. Susie moved to New Zealand in 2009 and is now best known as a host on Radio New Zealand. Susie's written about her life and career in a book, Bloody Minded, War, Womanhood and Finding My Voice. Whew. Susie, welcome.
Kia ora, thank you.
It's great to have you here.
It's lovely to meet you in person as well.
We were saying we've only ever talked. We've talked. You've interviewed me, and then it's voice to voice.
Yeah.
And meeting face to face.
I know.
Do you get recognised by your voice?
Yes. The good thing about radio is you're kind of incognito until you open your gob and say something.
And it's a very personal medium.
Yes. And so I guess you talk to people, like with podcasts, you talk to people when they're in the bath or in bed or in the kitchen or on the toilet. But you also talk to people in their cars. And so that's usually the giveaway if I get in a cab and say something. And you can just see the way that someone's spine just slightly stiffens.
Yeah.
Because they're listening. You can see their ears slightly turned and they're having to re-listen to who it is that's in the back of the cab because they recognise the voice.
But it is. It's, as you say, like I carry you with me in my ears on a Saturday morning. As I'm doing my chores.
Walking your dog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like literally. Okay, quick fire questions. If you go to the pub for a drink with any celebrity, who would it be?
Oh, see, I find this so hard partly because I'm spoiled on Saturday morning because I get to talk to all sorts of amazing people all the time. But also because some of the people who are the most interesting and who are unexpectedly the people that I really want to spend time to and talk to are not people that I would have picked, I wouldn't have guessed.
Yeah.
But I was thinking about this over the weekend and I kind of have to say Dame Maggie Smith.
Yeah.
Because she was a powerhouse. Yeah. And for so long, and must have seen so much.
And they say she was quite direct, and that real wit, and that, yeah.
I mean, you could see it in her eyes. Yeah, I think she would have been amazing to go to the pub.
Imagine if you got her and Dame Judi Dench.
Dame Judi Dench.
Because she's got the sparkle in her eye and the wit as well.
I mean, you wouldn't get a word in edgeways probably, but that'd be all right. You could just sit and watch.
Just sit and watch and learn.
Yeah.
What would your favourite drink be?
I mean, you can't go past a glass of Sav.
Yeah.
But, I'm not fussy.
Yeah. It's good to go. Okay. You swore you'd never write a book.
I never write a book, never climb Everest, never run a marathon.
And?
I'm not doing the other two.
You aren't?
I'm not doing the other two.
You could do a Kerry Woodham and decide to do a marathon at 50 or something.
I don't want to do a... No, my knees wouldn't... I know, that's not going to happen.
So why the book then?
Why the book? Well, I did a podcast interview, funnily enough, and it was off the back of that a couple of publishers got in touch.
Yeah.
So who knows what happens when you do podcast interviews. Lots of people have said to me, you should write that down over the years. I guess with various bits and pieces that have happened. And when I began having the sort of conversations with the publishers and I sort of thought, there's maybe something here around the health stuff, but also there's maybe something here around war because you get sort of war memoirs, which is all about the gunfights or the rockets landing or the mines that go off and all the violence of war. And there is plenty of violence in war. But also I experienced war as a very young rookie war reporter with 3 weeks' notice and suspected endometriosis, which I guess most people at the front line didn't have.
No. No.
So it was a way, I guess, of looking at an experience that I think we know about, that's in our public consciousness. It's in the movies, it's in the books, but looking at it from a different standpoint, I guess, through a different lens.
So you had a story in you that you wanted, that in the end you thought this should be written down and it might be read.
I guess so. And I've had friends and family, but I kind of think family are just being nice when they say, oh, you should write that down. But more and more people had over the years said to me, I think there's maybe something here. You should maybe have a go.
My family say don't write a book, by the way.
Why not?
I know I've been asked lots of times, and my family go, oh my God,
no.
we don't need that. We don't need that in print.
Oh, maybe you do. Yeah. I think it sounds like you do.
Oh, crikey. Okay, so the book's called Bloody Minded, which I love, but you are quite bloody minded. So do you think that determination, like you've got, you talk about your parents a lot, only child, do you think that gets, you were around adults a lot and you say it in the book. So that adult company, did that give you a sort of a sense of determination as well?
I don't know. I don't know where the determination comes from. I mean, both my parents are very focused, determined people.
High achieving,
unquestionably. But that doesn't necessarily mean that their kids would be,
no.
I guess. I wonder if I've always, not by everybody, but I think a lot of people underestimate women. And I think that got my back up.
Yeah.
At various points.
So is there a sense that you wanted to prove people wrong?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. There have definitely been times where you look back and you think, okay, I'm not going to come out on top in this one.
Yeah.
But I can wait.
Yeah.
That's
and
a long game.
And as you've gotten older, do you still feel that sense of having to prove yourself?
Probably a bit less so now. But I think a lot of things change with menopause, right?
Yeah. You settle in.
Hormonal crazy roller coaster settles down a bit. You've got a wealth of experience that no one can take away from you.
Yeah.
And people probably know who you are, what you stand for, what you can do. Which is not to say that you then take your foot off the gas and relax, but you become more of a known quantity.
I don't have to prove myself anymore.
No.
I did it for years and it drove me. It was a really good driver.
Yeah.
I quite liked being underestimated.
Yes.
Because while you're underestimating me, I'm getting on with it.
Exactly. I think it's a bit of a kind of secret superpower.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah, it can be. But now I don't give a damn.
And
were you Deputy Prime Minister, I think, in my head, when they're underestimated again? Or?
Well, exactly.
So moving to New Zealand, so you had, paternal grand...
Yeah, my dad was born here.
Yeah.
And his mother and grandfather.
Yeah.
Third
And so you came to visit
and
then moved. I mean, it wasn't quite that quick, I know. But it's a massive... I mean, I've always had huge admiration for people that sort of take that leap. I must say as much for refugees and those people that are just coming with nothing.
Yeah.
My goodness, I just can't even fathom that in my head.
No.
But even with you, 6-month-old baby.
Yeah, it wasn't a great decision looking back on it now. Don't move to the other side of the world with a 6-month-old. But then when is it a good time? I don't know. I mean, it was quite a strange experience coming here for the first time, which was on holiday about 3 years before we actually moved. And walking into places where lots of things were familiar to me, whether it was voices or food or the way people talked. And my husband he wasn't my husband then, but my partner not guessing that at all. And me saying to him, oh, look, it's Ginger Crunch. And he'd be like, what's Ginger Crunch?
Yeah.
Why? How can you not know what Ginger Crunch is? How can you not know what a melting moment is? Did your granny not have them in your tins in the pantry? No. Oh, that's just me. Oh. And suddenly this thing fell into place and I went, oh, it's New Zealand.
Yeah.
That's what's been that thing in the back of my mind, in the back of my childhood and my growing up. that I just thought it was my granny. But it wasn't just my granny, it was New Zealand.
It was New Zealand. So let's talk a bit about being a war correspondent, because you were young.
I was young.
Yeah. Early 20s?
25.
Yeah, 25.
Yeah.
That is young. Particularly when you look back at it, at the time you sort of thought you were, a superwoman and you knew everything.
Yeah, totally.
But you look back now and you just go,
I was a child.
Yeah, I was a child.
But terrifyingly, quite a lot of the fighting men there were younger than me.
Yeah.
Which, looking back now, just feels, there were 18-year-olds there.
So it wasn't your plan to be a war correspondent, was it?
Absolutely not. No. I went to drama school, and then I went to do a postgrad in broadcast journalism. And the first day doing the postgrad, and the tutor said, right, who here wants to be a war correspondent? And about half the class put their hand up, and I wasn't one of them.
Yeah.
And the woman sitting next to me wasn't one of them either. And out of everyone in the class, I know that we're two people who did end up producing, reporting, presenting from war zones. No, I wanted to be an arts correspondent. But I wanted to do stuff about theatre and music and dance and visual arts and all these kinds of things. And not at all. It ended up being the war chose me.
But then isn't that part of the wonderful advice that you say of your mother, which is, and I'm probably paraphrasing badly, but is, say yes and then work it out later?
Yeah.
And so when asked, you just said yes and then walked away and went, okay, what did I just say yes to?
Yeah, exactly. Because you have to, lots of things have taught me that. My mum, absolutely, never plan anything too stringently that you miss the opportunity.
Nice.
That falls into your lap. Because I'm not a planner. I know lots of people are really big on their 5-year plans, their 10-year plans. I'm just not one of those people. I kind of look around and see what's happening. And her advice was always just keep your eyes open because you don't know what's around the corner.
And if you're too rigid, you won't see them.
Too rigid, you'll be like, no, on my 5-year plan, that's not what I'm meant to be doing. And so I think that was really great advice. And then also from mum, but also from drama school and various other bits of my life, always say yes. Like, can you roller skate? Yes. I mean, right now, today, no, but I can learn. Because that's the thing, you can always learn stuff. You can always upskill. YouTube is there for a reason, and it's not just to fall down a rabbit hole. It's like you can learn all sorts of amazing things and be all sorts of different things. And back yourself. Because if you say yes, you can always say no later if you really need to back out.
But war zone's quite different, to be fair.
Yeah.
And so what year did you go in? Because it's
2003.
Yeah.
It was the invasion.
And it was very different 21 years ago. Not many women.
No.
I mean, I know it's obviously completely different now, but even the way that we fought wars and what it looked like was very different than what it would
And
now.
we weren't seeing it on social media feeds the way that we do now.
No.
I mean, you did see it obviously on news reports, but not like scrolling through Instagram.
Yeah.
That you can now.
Yeah. Were you terrified?
No. And I don't quite know why I wasn't terrified, because especially having written it all down, I kind of think maybe I should have been a little bit terrified. I wasn't terrified. I was immensely curious. I was very interested in having the experience of it and doing it and seeing what it was like. It was something I never in my wildest dreams thought I would do.
Wow.
And so to be offered it felt like it was too good an opportunity to pass up. But then when you end up living out the back of a tank with 3 guys in the desert who you've never met before, and you're surrounded by men, to say it's an austere environment is an understatement. It's a pretty hard landing. But also it was an enormously, everything about that experience was extraordinary.
Yeah. But then isn't it fascinating and that really you said you could cope with war, but it was being back home in normal life that you struggled most with?
Yeah, I could cope with bombs going off around me. There was one time, it's actually not, I don't think it's in the book, but there was one time I went to Iraq and every night there were rockets being fired that you could hear them landing all around where we were sleeping. And at the time there were these things called Baghdad beds, which were sort of like a bunk bed, except it wasn't a bed on the top. It was just basically a ceiling to stop so that if something landed, it wouldn't land directly on you. And most people had Baghdad beds, except I didn't have one of them. And so I was in a porta cabin type thing that I was in, but the rockets were still kind of landing all around. And so basically you were getting no sleep at all. But then I would come home and get stuck in traffic in London and be, unconsolably crying, just in bits, because I was going to be 10 minutes late to an appointment.
Yeah, yeah.
And that was the point that I was like,
Yeah.
I think there's a problem here.
Something going on.
Yeah,
we're going to talk more about the health because I think that's that's really the advice part of this podcast, because I've got so many questions and I know that we can help so many people. So that's what we've got to do. But it's the humanity, right? So not just the humanity of war, the Boxing Day tsunami, like seeing people at their most vulnerable.
Yeah.
Just must have been, and you do feel it, right?
Yeah.
You're that person, though you're supposed to be a hard-nosed journalist.
And you are, and you have to try to view it with impartiality, absolutely. But at the same time, when you're seeing, as you say, humanity, when it has been ripped apart, and where your level of helping is by bringing the world's attention to something, it's still very difficult, because that's not necessarily how you're seen by the people on the ground.
Yeah.
They see you as the way out for their children, or they see you as someone who they can directly appeal to specifically help them, and you're simply not in a position to do that. I found some of the disaster recovery incredibly hard to watch. Both the Boxing Day tsunami and the Pakistan earthquake, which happened within the same sort of year. And it was very hard to try to make sense of that and to make it make sense.
But then you see the best of people, right? Those that come through it, those that are rescuing, those that are makeshifting and doing everything that sort of has to happen, right?
And that's what I always say to my kids whenever they watch news and they see something upsetting. I always say to them, look for the rescuers.
Yeah.
Look for the helpers. There are always people you can see who are doing the helping.
Yeah.
Because that's how recovery happens.
Okay, so are you loving Saturday mornings?
I am loving Saturday mornings.
It sounds great. And you just get to meet such interesting people.
Fabulous people. Absolutely extraordinary people. And it's so nice to not get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and fight with politicians. Every morning.
Because it is, it's a battle.
It's a battle.
Yeah.
It is a battle. It's a battle in more ways than one, though, but because it's a battle when you're on air, and it's very, as you know, adversarial. But it's a battle against your own body, which is screaming at you, going, what are you doing getting up at 4 a.m. again? What are you doing?
Yeah. This is crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy.
The book is dedicated to the llamas.
Yes.
What?
It's an in-joke with my kids.
Oh, I like it. Okay,
I didn't want them to be named, and so I couldn't write it to them with their name. So it's an in-joke with my
kids.
kids.
Notice that you didn't name your children, and I thought, you're just keeping that little bit of privacy for them.
Well, they can decide what they want to do when they're grown-ups with that kind of stuff. But
no, I agree 100%.
Yeah, but it's hard, isn't it, when you've...
Yeah.
I had one of my children just before I started on Morning Report. So they've kind of always been part of this journey, but also they're allowed to have their private life.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
Yeah.
100%. My stepdaughter was in so different name, all of it. And when she was at intermediate school, another 12-year-old handed her a note, and it was from his mother to give to me to tell me how awful I am. And I just went, my 12-year-old doesn't have to put up with that at school.
That's horrible.
It was horrible.
It's really horrible.
So we just gave her her privacy and sent her to a different school.
How do you handle something like that?
I don't know how you handle it. I obviously am not still handling that one. I don't care what people say and think about me. It was just, that's my girl, and she's 12.
Yeah.
And that's such a vulnerable age, as we know, because, and so it's like, there's some weird things that go on out there. But no, I admire that.
Sure are.
Well, I quite like the llamas then. I'll take it. I'll take it.
I did wonder if anyone would ask me about that, but I was like, nah, I feel like this is the right thing to do.
Good on you. Okay, well, when we come back, we're going to chat endo and living in a man's world. I want to talk a little bit about that as well. Okay, I am right back with Susie Ferguson, and your book, Bloody Minded, deals with a lot, right? So first, I mean, my goodness, your health from about the age of 13 when your period started. And I know I've read that it takes like 7 years on average for someone to get diagnosed with endo. And that's just staggering, right? In this day and age, and it's still happening, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's still in your mind and you're fine and it's womanly problems and yes, you're going to bleed and that's just the way life is.
It's all part of being a woman.
And your dad was a doctor too.
Yeah. Yeah. It's... what to say? I mean, I think it's probably hard when you're first getting your periods because... they're a bit all over the show and sometimes they're light and sometimes they're heavy and sometimes they're painful and sometimes they're not. And, it takes a while for all that kind of stuff to sort of settle down. And lots of people have funny periods or bad periods or sore periods, but not everyone has endo, I guess. No. Maybe, I don't know. The problem is that the main way I think still for it to be diagnosed is not through scans or tests, but it's about a surgeon getting eyes on in an operating theatre when often it's a laparoscopy. So that's where it's like keyhole surgery to have a look in and it's a camera having a look at your insides. And so that's not a first line of diagnosis for anybody.
But I thought they might have seen it when you had that first surgery for the cyst.
Yeah.
Did you think that? Because, and so you had a cyst on ovary, right? And
that
had been causing a lot of that.
huge ovarian cyst.
Yeah, and that had been causing a lot of the pain that you'd been having. You sort of describe it as, sort of potentially twisting around, that sort of thing. So when I read later on about the endo, I was like, oh, well, why didn't they did look inside you?
They did look inside me. So I don't know, and it's kind of funny looking back on that and having written the book, because I look back on that now and think, was the endo not there? Or did they not see it? Or were they not looking for it? Or did they not look in the right places? I don't know. Because by the time I was then back under the knife 8 years later, it was there. It was on my bowels. It was on my bladder. It was on my ovary. Like it was on the outside of my fallopian tube. There was seemingly quite a lot of it. But this is one of the other strange things about endo, that you can have lots of it that can be seen and almost no pain.
Yeah.
Or lots of pain. Or you can have almost none and a huge amount of pain. So I guess, I don't know, maybe they just missed it. Maybe they weren't looking for it. But it does seem odd that, they actually bothered opening me up and didn't find anything.
So if you had, if we had a teenager or, a young woman in a sort of early 20s and she is in pain then what are her options now? So is there really not a test that you can take without them going in? Because it's a lining, as you described it, isn't it?
It's the stuff that's similar to the lining of your uterus that grows outside your uterus.
Okay.
Often in the pelvic area, so like your lower abdomen, but also I've been told by endo specialists that they found endometriosis in people's lungs, in people's brains.
Wow.
But they don't really know how it gets there. So I think there's an awful lot not known, is the short answer. In terms of advocacy and what to do, there are some really good resources out there. Endometriosis New Zealand is a really good one-stop shop. It's got a bunch of resources there. Keep going to your doctor. Try to get in front of a gynecologist. There are things that can be done to lessen the pain. Things like Mirena IUDs can be pretty useful in that sort of route. So there are definitely things that can be done before you actually get seen by a surgeon. I think there are some, or I've heard of some new ultrasound machines and specialists that can they're beginning to go down that route. I don't know if we can do that in New Zealand. I do have a friend who's been diagnosed that way in London. But I think you just have to keep banging your head against the brick wall.
And someone like you has to keep talking about it.
You have to keep talking about it because there's so many people that this affects.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah.
1 in 10.
And we don't
You'll know,
Yeah.
you'll know people who have it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Sisters or
Yeah.
cousins or
Yeah.
friends, whatever.
No,
Yeah.
very much so.
Yeah.
And watched that pain and thought it was in their head. But when you're a war correspondent, you're saying you're taking up to 15 painkillers a day.
Yeah.
And was that just to get through?
Yeah, I took that every day.
Yeah.
It was a kind of opioid that I think you don't get now, which probably isn't a good sign. I was prescribed to take that for years on end because there was nothing else. And
Did they believe you were in pain?
I assume so.
Yeah.
And I guess you don't prescribe people opioids for
No.
years on end without thinking that. But not enough, I guess, to actually prioritise me being diagnosed.
Yeah. So, in the end, well, it's not the end, but and as part of it as well, you chose to have a hysterectomy.
Yeah.
Big decision, a big operation, and you chose to go public about it.
Yes, I did. It was about 7 years ago now, which seems amazing. I chose to go public about it for a bunch of reasons, partly because I didn't feel I had anything to be ashamed about. Just a bit of my anatomy that was not working desperately well. And it takes 6 weeks to recover. So I was going to be off Morning Report for quite a long time. And so I thought, rather than it just being this void, why not tell the story? RNZ is a storytelling organisation. Why not tell our own story? But also because it was the last chance saloon for me. I'd had previous surgery for endo. I'd gone into, I could feel it coming back, and I'd ended up back in Wellington Hospital and had an examination, which I have to say was one of the most painful, unexpectedly painful examinations of my life. Nothing to do with the doctor. She was fantastic, but it was just, my uterus was past it. And, I was told at that point, you'll have we'd like to offer you a hysterectomy on the public service. It'll happen within 4 months. It actually happened within 2. And it was a big decision in some ways, but also in others it wasn't at all. It was only after I'd signed the consent form that I said to the doctor, oh, actually, I don't want any more children. But I think it was just, for me, I had to make it stop.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't, I was, Bill English, I think was it Bill English? I think Bill English was the Prime Minister at that point. And, I was like, I can't keep interviewing Bill English while I've got sweat breaking out on me because I'm in so much pain.
Yeah,
this is ridiculous.
Yeah, you're screaming with pain internally.
Yeah. And so I actually it was a very easy decision in the end.
But in some respects, it's an empowering operation, an empowering decision, because
Yeah.
you're claiming your body.
Absolutely.
You're claiming your future.
Yeah, because it wasn't going to get better on its own.
No.
It wasn't going to get better by itself. I had to do something. I could have had laparoscopy. There were other complications going on as well, though, that we didn't know about until it was out. So probably it was going to have to come out anyway. And being able to make that decision was possibly for the first time in this whole saga of having endo, which I've probably had ever since I was a teenager. It was really the first time that I was able to, hopefully in a permanent way, put an end to it. And a hysterectomy is not necessarily a cure. It is for some people. I think it was for me, probably, thankfully. And it was life-changing. Absolutely life-changing. Yeah.
Can I also, just so much respect for you talking about, having your first child and what we're expected it to be and everything else and the reality of it being kind of frightening. And you had health problems then as well. But it's not all bows and sunshines. And, I was young, but whether that's relevant or not. But I hated breastfeeding.
I was terrible.
Yeah, I hated it.
I felt like I couldn't do it. And I don't know how much was that I couldn't do it and that I was in so much pain doing it, and how much was that my milk wasn't coming in because, as you say, there were various health complications. But the thing that I really hated more than anything else was that there was no line of help. There was no safety net to catch you. This is in the UK. That there were breastfeeding counsellors, but if you couldn't get an appointment with one, then too bad. And there was no assumption that you were trying to do your best. The automatic assumption was you were neglecting your child. And so I was basically accused of neglecting my child twice before he was 10 days old.
And you talk about it, and
which nearly destroyed.
I know. You talk about it, and it really resonated with me. I just kept expecting this knock on the door and them taking my baby.
Yeah,
I genuinely, for years, really, I did.
I assumed that my child was going to be taken away from me, which is why I didn't say anything about the fact that I then kind of broke and nearly fell apart.
Yeah.
Because if I told them that, then they really would take my kid away. Yeah, that's terrifying.
When my daughter was 3 months old, she had to go to hospital, respiratory. I think she's 37 for crying out loud. So I think it was respiratory. But I was a mess, like beside myself, a mess. No, I knew she was going to be okay. I just thought it was neglect, and that this is when they're going to pull me up and take the baby. Yeah, it's frightening. So I just thought it was a nice, real account, and I don't think we give that enough. We've got to soldier on, and we've got to cope, and we are the mums, and and that's where it's at. And it's just like, well, sometimes we're not.
And we talk about how it takes a village to raise a child, but where's the village?
Yeah. And
if you pay to have the village come to you, then society will judge you in another way. It's like the I don't even think it's a double bind. It's like a triple bind. And the assumption that, when I was doing everything I could think of and it still wasn't good enough. And the assumption that you're neglecting your child was, I felt under siege in a way that I don't think I ever have before. Or since.
And then there's that guilt as well, right? You talk about having miscarriages, and then you're blessed with this pregnancy and this baby, and it's just like, well, shouldn't I be, the happiest? And women talk about that with abortion as well. Like it's years later, they then go on to have childbirth, and it's just like, well, there's women out there that want more than anything in life, and I've made these other decisions, and so we just get a bit wrapped with it all in our own heads if we let us.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's really valid, because you do think that you should be grateful and you should be loving every minute.
Yeah.
And when you're hating every minute, it's a very hard sort of circle to square.
Look, you start the book talking about going to the toilet in a war zone. And I just want to touch, briefly before we sort of get to the end, but, on that, being in such a male-dominated environment as a woman, and you would have been treated differently as a woman, and sometimes better, I imagine, as well. It's not necessarily, I'm not saying everyone was, because sometimes you talk about some of the respect that you were shown, and it sounds to me like good men.
Yeah.
Like genuinely good men that were looking out for you.
Yeah.
But was it, I don't know if it's intimidating is the right word, but it just must have been, there was a lot of testosterone around you.
Oh, there's a lot of testosterone around. And there are people who, you say to them, so, what do you reckon to being in Iraq? And these are, even from my 25-year-old eyes at the time, children who are just like, oh yeah, I can't wait to fire my gun. Which you're like, oh, that's quite confronting.
Yeah.
And there were some incredibly good men, and the vast majority of them were incredibly good men. But also they were men who were amped up to fight a war.
Yeah.
Because that's how you get people to fight a war, is by amping them up. And so inevitably it was a pretty macho, as you say, testosterone-fueled environment that you're living in and bleeding in. It's a circumstance which you're trying not to be a burden, because you kind of are a burden when you're, because
just for being a journalist,
because they don't need to be watching your back as well. But suddenly they've got someone else to look after, which is not what they need. Someone else to feed, someone else to find somewhere to, have bed down for the night, whatever. So you are a pain, but you don't want to be too much of a pain. But at the same time, it is a complex set of relationships that you end up having in that circumstance, and very intense.
Do you think it will have changed now with more women? There'll be more women journalists, reporters, there'll be women fighting, right?
There are women fighting now, I
Yeah.
believe, in the infantry, which, there absolutely weren't at the time that I was there in Iraq, and actually right across my time as a war reporter. I'm sure it will have changed a bit, but then, I went through a medical before I was sent, and I was told to take the pill back to back because that would stop me bleeding. And so I guess that's the fix, right?
Yeah.
But then if the fix doesn't work, and you only find that out when you're in the desert on the makeshift toilet, it's kind of too late by then.
Yeah.
You just have to get on with it.
Yeah, there's no sanitary items that anyone's got for you.
You've got rid of
There's
them.
Yeah.
You've thrown them away because you didn't have room to carry them. So
Yeah.
you prioritise taking your painkillers instead.
Yeah.
So you just have to
Oh, I hope.
do and get on.
Would you advise a woman to go?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What an experience, eh?
What an experience. But also, why would you want to curtail yourself?
Yeah.
Why would you not want to give yourself every opportunity?
Live the biggest life you can.
Absolutely.
Okay, to finish this segment then, because you've got some pearlers in the book, I must say. I quite love them. But I would like to know what was the best advice you've been given. And it doesn't have to be the best, but you've had some good advice. Well, you had a good mum, mate.
Yeah, I've got a good mum. Yeah, always say yes. Always back yourself. Look for the opportunity, and that might just pass you by if you're not careful enough to catch hold of it as it goes. One that's actually not in the book, but I think is a great piece of advice. We're always juggling all the time, juggling all the balls in the air, work and family and career and life and your dog and all the things. And sometimes it feels like there are too many balls. Decide what the balls are made of, because some of them are made of glass and you've got to catch those ones, but some of them are made of rubber and they'll bounce and somebody else will catch them.
Oh, I'm going to like that one.
So, and they can change. Sometimes you got to catch work and it's the one made of glass, but other times it's going to be family. But you can decide what your balls are made of and how seriously you have to make sure you get hands on them or not.
And it changes, I agree.
And it changes.
I like it. I like it a lot. Okay, so it's called Ask Me Anything, and I've been asking you everything, so you now get to ask me something.
I have so many questions, but I love stories. And I know you love fishing. So what's the story of the one that got away? What's your best fishing story?
I must have lots of them. But I love fishing. I don't know, I just...
Why do you love fishing so much?
Well, I used to fly fish, and so that was always serene. It was generally at dusk, and you're in cold water, and and it was beautiful, right? Just absolutely beautiful. And then I got into sea fishing, and so for me it's escapism. I mean, I always say I'm my happiest on, in, or under the water. So that is definitely my happy space. I mean, I can fall asleep in it. I can fall asleep in the water. Yeah. Like quite easily, because I just love, that block your ears and you just go into your own head. Yeah. And so then fishing.
You've been in one of those float tanks?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'd love to go in one of them.
And then, and so then just the fishing aspect, it brings in a bit of competition. You just don't know what's going to happen. It's fun. It's I've taken a lot of foster kids and misplaced youth, I call them, and it's a fantastic activity to do with them because you've got something to talk about.
Yeah.
Yet you're actually quite physically close.
Yes.
Right, because you're in a boat and it's not a huge boat, and most of them have never been fishing before in their lives. So many of them have never even been to a beach, right? And they live in Auckland. It's just incredible. And so you get them on a boat, and so you've got a safe physical closeness, which is, I'm a grandmother, so I always think I'm allowed to have safe physical closeness because some of these kids have not been touched in a safe and, loving way. And so, and then you teach them to fish, so you're literally touching their hands, it's really amazing. And of course, then they get a bite. And it's just like, what the heck is that?
What is that like when you've cast or whatever?
Yeah. And a big one.
And you're waiting and then
you
get
don't know what's on the end. Yeah. And then you've got to try and hook it up and then it's a battle. So yeah, I've won a woman's marlin fishing competition before.
How big was the marlin?
Not that big, about 110 kgs, I think. Which isn't that big for a marlin, to be really honest.
Oh, it's a little one.
Yeah. Anyway, happy place.
Sounds fantastic.
I don't have to fish. I could just sit and have a glass of wine, which I do sometimes. The husband does all the work. He's the one that has to get the boat in and drive the car. So sometimes I'll just go, I've had enough.
Yeah.
Put my scarf on. Thank you so much for your honesty. Thank you for coming in. Thank you for, I think, just being so raw in the book and telling real stories that people need to hear. And I think you're going to help a lot of people. So Susie's book, Bloody Minded, is in stores now. It's a rollicking read. And that's it for another episode of Ask Me Anything. If you've enjoyed this episode, please follow Ask Me Anything on iHeartRadio or wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure you check out some of my past fabulous guests, and I'll be back next Sunday. I'm Paula Bennett. Ask Me Anything. Goodbye.